title, Blood Money, Tony woke to the sound of dripping water. His head pounded and his chest ached where the knife had pierced him. He groaned, reaching for his side. The wound was shallow, but the blood was real. His suit was soaked through. He opened his eyes and realized he was no longer in the butcher shop. He lay on a cold, damp concrete floor in a dark room. A single bulb swung from the ceiling, casting erratic shadows along the cracked walls. Chains rattled somewhere in the distance. Tony sat up, his breathing shallow. "Mikey," he called out. His voice echoed, but no one answered. A sudden metallic scraping sound filled the room. A large iron door on the far side of the room groaned open, and a figure stepped through. The man in the black trench coat. His wide-brimmed hat still obscured his face, but Tony could see those sickly yellow eyes glowing beneath the brim. Tony struggled to his feet, clutching his side. "Who the hell are you?" The figure took a step forward. "You owe a debt, Tony," he said in that deep, unnatural voice. "And debts must be paid." Tony gritted his teeth. "You think I'm gonna just hand you my money? You don't know who you're messing with." The figure chuckled. "It's not about the money. It's about the blood behind it." Tony's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" The figure took another step forward, and the temperature in the room dropped. Tony could see his breath fogging the air. "Your father's shop," the figure whispered. "You think that money came clean?" Tony stiffened. "My old man worked hard for that money." The figure's head tilted. "Did he?" Suddenly, the walls of the room shimmered and melted away, revealing the butcher shop. But this time it was different. Blood covered the floor. A young Tony, no older than 8, stood frozen in the center of the room. His father, Salvatore Calabrese, stood behind the counter, a bloody cleaver in his hand. A man knelt on the floor before him, hands tied behind his back, blood pouring from his mouth. Tony watched as his father raised the cleaver high and brought it down, the sickening thunk echoing through the room. "No," Tony whispered. He stumbled backward as the scene melted away, leaving him alone with the figure once more. "You inherited more than just money, Tony," the figure said. "You inherited the blood price, and now it's time to pay." Tony's pulse hammered in his ears. He raised his gun and fired. The shot echoed in the small room. But the bullet passed straight through the figure as if he were made of smoke. The figure's mouth curled into a cold smile. "You can't shoot your way out of this." The room began to shake. Chains snaked across the floor, wrapping around Tony's ankles and wrists. He struggled, but the cold metal burned his skin. "Your father's sins have come due," the figure whispered as the chains tightened. "You have one chance, Tony. Find the money, or drown in the blood it came from." The chains yanked Tony down, dragging him toward the cold concrete floor. His vision blurred as the floor seemed to melt beneath him, turning into black liquid. He screamed as he was pulled under, the dark liquid filling his mouth and lungs. Then silence. Tony's eyes snapped open. He was lying on the floor of the butcher shop. The carved message, "Debt paid in blood," was gone. His side still throbbed, but he was alive. Breathing hard, Tony staggered to his feet. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with a shaking hand. A text from an unknown number. "You have 24 hours." Tony's hand tightened around the phone. His blood ran cold as the message deleted itself right before his eyes. He had 24 hours to find the money or die trying. To be continued.